One more very important benefit of mindfulness I want to share, and we touched on it a little bit, which is that it helps us to be more present for our life. Sometimes we're so busy, focused on the future and what we need to get done and what's happening later, that we miss what's happening in front of us. And one of the greatest gifts we can give to the children and the teens and the adolescents that we work with is our attention. Really seeing the person in front of us can have a huge impact on their life. Just one relationship with an adult who really sees a child, who values them, who believes in them, can affect the trajectory of the whole person's life. Mindfulness helps us to be fully present for ourselves, to not miss our own life, always working and thinking about the future, being lost in the past. And it allows us to bring the gift of our wholehearted presence to the kids, to the adolescents that we work with. So mindfulness can do all of this. It's a tall order, and yet I've seen it in my own life. The research bears it out. There are different ways that we can integrate mindfulness into our work and our education. Mindfulness has an effect in the classroom, first and foremost, in terms of how you show up. Remember, you yourself are an intervention. Your very presence has an impact on the children that you work with. So the more present and grounded you are, the more you have to offer. So even if you're not teaching or sharing mindfulness with kids, if you're practicing it yourself, if you're learning how to be more aware and balanced and resilient, more regulated, your own mindfulness practice is having an indirect benefit on the children and the teaching. It's changing the whole atmosphere of your classroom. So integrating mindfulness into your own day and practicing mindfulness is one very important way to bring mindfulness into your work. How do we do this? Of course, having some kind of daily mindfulness practice is recommended. So whether it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes or longer, taking time at the beginning or the end of the day, whenever you can find the time, to practice mindfulness formally, using the breath, using the body. There are many practices that are being offered here in the conference for you to explore and learn and see which one of those really speaks to you. Which ones do you enjoy? Which ones work for you? Whichever that is, practice it every day for a little bit. This is one way of integrating mindfulness into your work and your life. Another is to cultivate informal mindful moments during the day. I spoke about this a little bit earlier. So make a little ritual for yourself of pausing and taking a breath. Say, every time you enter your classroom, or when you open your laptop, when you look at your device, when the phone rings. There are all these things we do every single day that can become reminders, like a mindfulness bell. It reminds us to come back to being present. You might feel your body in one of those pauses. Periodically throughout the day, take 5 seconds, 10 seconds to just look around, to breathe, to remember that you're alive, to notice something pleasant and take it in. You can create certain routines so that this becomes integrated into your day, maybe before or after sending an email, if you're on the phone and you're waiting on hold. Taking very short breaks, maybe between classes or when you hand out an assignment. Find the things in your day that help you remember and make it a routine where every time you do that, you take a little break. A wonderful time to do this is before eating. We all eat several times a day. It's a natural time to just pause, take a breath. We can cultivate gratitude, appreciate that we have food to eat. Of course, you can also share mindfulness practice with your students. This takes some training. It's important to understand and really know how to practice mindfulness properly yourself before sharing it with kids. You wouldn't say, try to teach calculus or art history, having never studied it yourself, right? You would want to learn the material that you're going to be teaching really well and understand it before you share it. So there are many programs and resources for sharing and teaching mindfulness with kids. And you can do this every day in very simple ways, short ways with your kids. Just being able to take a few mindful breaths, for example, before a test can improve learning readiness and focus, can help kids relax and do better on the test. There are many ways like this to offer mindfulness to your students. The last thing I want to share with you a little bit today is, how do we know if our mindfulness practice is working? I've talked about all of these different benefits to mindfulness. Remember that analogy I gave in the beginning of walking through the meadow 100 times, 1,000 times. It takes time to see the benefits of mindfulness. If you just walk through the meadow 5 times, you're not going to have a really well-traveled path yet. Mindfulness takes time to really integrate into our life. The benefits of mindfulness don't always show up in the places we think they will. It often shows up slowly over time in unexpected moments where something happens and we don't react, or we react differently than we would have before, and then all of a sudden we realize, oh wow, look at that, that's different. Also, when we are experiencing a reaction, if we are feeling stressed or angry or frustrated, and say we remember to use mindfulness, we close our eyes, we take a few mindful breaths, that doesn't mean that the uncomfortable feeling will magically disappear. That's not how mindfulness works. What mindfulness will do is it can help you have more perspective on that feeling. So the feeling will still be present, but now it's not the only thing. There's maybe a little bit more space with the feeling, a little bit more perspective. So one of the ways that mindfulness works is not to make uncomfortable or unpleasant things go away. That's just part of life. But it means that when we encounter stressful, difficult, or uncomfortable things, we don't lose our ground, we don't lose our center. We can take some mindful breaths, we can come back to feeling our body, and have another reference point, so that what we're experiencing is no longer the only reference point. It's no longer taking up our whole awareness. It's occupying a little bit of a smaller space, and we have access to a little bit more perspective.